But let's start with a story of revival. Hundreds of newspapers in small towns have been disappearing, but there's a small news outlet in Southern Oregon that is flipping that script, and it's actually growing after replacing a staple in the community. And that, my friends, is our big story tonight. 6 months ago, the Medford Mail Tribune newspaper closed its doors for good. It had served Southern Oregon for more than 100 years. They even won a Pulitzer Prize back in 1934, the first ever for an Oregon news outlet for coverage of unscrupulous politicians in Jackson County. The closure this year left a lot of people upset and concerned, and for good reason. Research has shown that when a community loses a news outlet, people there suffer. Take those unscrupulous politicians, for example. You need local journalists around to keep your politicians in check and to tell you what your government's doing and how they're spending your money, for example. Luckily for people in Medford, it was only a matter of days before another newspaper started up with plans to get back to doing good old-fashioned journalism, and in print, no less. Ashley Koch went down to Medford to see how they're doing.
In downtown Medford, smoke fills the air from nearby wildfires. Inside the tiny newsroom of the brand new Rogue Valley Times, the news team is making a game plan to cover the fires.
Find a person and start to tell their story. Use all of your senses. Use your ears and your eyes.
The rest of the team is working on other stories this morning. They're following up on an investigation, making plans to cover a community event. But it's July in Oregon, and they're ready to drop everything if more fires break out. The team is small, but it's growing. They started 5 months ago sharing a conference table. Now they've moved into a historic bank building in the heart of downtown.
This is one of the marquee intersections in downtown Medford. And as we were outgrowing our first office, which is 3 blocks from here, it was really important to us to stay in the heart of downtown.
David Summers is the publisher of the Rogue Valley Times. But it's a startup, so he wears a lot of hats.
I have tools in my desk because it's easier for me to go fix the stuck lock than it is to go bring in a locksmith sometimes.
He says the location is part of an effort to restore what was lost when the Medford Mail Tribune suddenly closed up shop back in January.
The Medford Mail Tribune newspaper had been around for over 100 years. This was the community's chronicle of our history.
The paper went through a lot of ownership changes in recent years, and former staff members say it got worse with each new owner, until the last one.
The paper didn't die, it was killed.
That's former Mail Tribune editor Dave Smigelski. He says the last owners of the paper, Rosebud Media, experimented with focusing on video over articles in an effort to lure in millennials. It didn't work, and the staff was given 2 days' notice that the paper was going to close, leaving the lingering question, who's going to cover the news?
This is the largest city between San Francisco and Eugene and Portland, or Boise to the east.
Medford has a TV station and a public radio station, but the Mail Tribune had been the only newspaper left to cover a metropolitan area of 223,000 people.
Southern Oregon, the Rogue Valley, Medford, Jackson County, this is a community that has a passion for local news.
Medford was on the cusp of becoming the latest news desert. Northwestern University found that 360 newspapers have shut down since the end of 2019, most of them serving small communities. An estimated 75,000 journalists worked in newspapers in 2006, and now that's down to only 31,000, according to the same study. About 70 million Americans live in a county with either no local news organization or only one. But Medford seems to be avoiding that fate. Within days of the Mail Tribune shutting down, plans were in motion to start a brand new newspaper from the ground up, backed by EO Media, which owns other newspapers in Oregon, including the Bend Bulletin and the East Oregonian. Dave Smigelski says he had been thinking about retiring, but it didn't take long for him to change his mind. He signed on as editor and hired the news staff, many of him his colleagues from the Mail Tribune.
All of the people who were out there said yes before I had the ask out of my mouth.
He says they're committed to bringing back journalism that serves the community. Local coverage of events, arts and entertainment, sports, and deep investigations. On his team is investigative reporter Buffy Pollock, who worked for the Mail Tribune for more than 20 years.
And as soon as they called, I was just, yes, absolutely.
With the Rogue Valley Times, she's been able to spend weeks reporting on the death of a caregiver that no one had known about.
We found out that this woman had been attacked and died as a result of her job, and nothing happened.
We dug into that story. The police didn't know about it. The state didn't know about it. The county didn't know about it. And so our reporting brought to light the fact that her death had occurred, number one. And then number two, we were able to document numerous injuries by other employees at this company, by the person who is accused of injuring and killing Bobby.
That particular story is going to end up having impact at the state level.
It's that kind of impact that publisher David Summers says he's proud to watch.
These are journalists who have decades-long relationships, who have built sources and are wired into this community in a way that I am in awe of.
Because these are the reporters doing work that you can only do if you live here and you know the city the way that they do.
What's happening at Medford City Hall or Jackson County Commission, Ashland City Council, we have to be there to cover that. Nobody can helicopter in to do that.
Summers says the community is happy to have it too. They've gotten a lot of positive feedback and support, which isn't always the case when you work in the news. And in an age when we get most of our news online, even the print edition has grown.
You can literally feel how much heavier and bigger the paper is between these two. Anyone that says that print is dead, they need to come see what's happening in Medford.
Ashley Koch, KGW News.
The paper was initially called the Rogue Valley Tribune, but the former owner of the Medford Mail Tribune threatened to sue, so they changed the name. The paper publishes a print edition 3 times a week. People can get it delivered to their home or they can buy it around town. And they have an online version. You need a subscription for some articles, but not all of them. Go check it out. We think you'll enjoy it. Finally, there's a small world connection. That publisher that you saw in the story, David Summers, he used to work here at KGW 20 years ago. Good luck to you and your crew, David. I'm sure your community appreciates you.